Hi, my name is Sharifu Akmam and Nazrul Akmam, and today I'm gonna introduce you what is dynamic programming. So, what is dynamic programming? Dynamic programming is a method for solving complex problems by breaking them down into similar subproblems. Dynamic programming is actually both a mathematical optimization method and a computer programming method. In both contexts, it refers to simplifying a complicated problem by breaking it down into simpler subproblems in a recursive manner. And in general, to solve a given problem, we need to solve different parts of the problem called subproblem, then combine the solution of the subproblem to reach an overall solution. Often many of these subproblems are really the same. The dynamic programming approach seeks to solve each subproblem on its own, thus reducing the number of computation. And once the solution to a given subproblem has been computed in the store, the next time the same solution is needed, it is simply looked up. In the above example, we didn't have to recompute anything. Once we find the optimal path from the intersection to the office, we store and use it. The next time we need to compute the delay from previous intersection. This approach is especially useful when the number of repeating subproblems grows exponentially. And component of dynamic programming. Firstly, state. State is a small portion of a given problem, and state variable which are used for taking decision at every state is called a state variable. And thirdly, decision. The decision taken at each state should be optimal. This is called a state decision. And lastly, optimal policy. This is called as Bellman principle optimality. And characteristic of dynamic programming. Every state consists of a number of states associated with it. Decision at each state convert the current state into state associated with the next stage, and the state of the system is described by a set variable called a state variables. And application of dynamic programming: knapsack problem, mathematical optimization problem, all-pair shortest path problem, reliability design problem, flight control and robotic control, longest common subsequence, time sharing. It schedules the job to maximize CPU usage. And element of dynamic programming. Firstly, overlapping subproblem. One of the main characteristics is to split the problem into subproblem as similar as divide the conquer approach. Basically, there are two ways for handling the overlapping subproblem. Firstly, top-down approach. It also termed as memorization technique. And lastly, bottom-up approach. It is also termed as tabulation technique.
Created using Powtoon.